Mr. Vice President, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Thanks for being with us.
Happy to.
49 days to the election. How do you feel?
Good. Feel real good. You know, it's a long way. 49 days is a long time. A lot can happen, but it feels good.
You're here in Florida. An NBC Marist poll in this state shows that you're essentially tied with the president here, but he actually is ahead of you among Latino voters.
That's
Why do you
not
think
true.
that?
I didn't see that in the Marist poll. What poll are you talking about?
The NBC Marist poll says that actually the vice president among Latinos in the state of Florida has 50 to your 46% among Latino voters.
That's the only poll to show that. Did you see the Monmouth poll today? Same poll. How come you don't quote the good ones?
Well, I'm just quoting the one that we have that we actually think is a very solid poll.
No, look.
But every poll, obviously, is a snapshot of a time and a place. Having said that, as you know, Hillary Clinton got 62% of the Latino vote in 2016 here. Why do you think that is?
I don't believe it. Look, I'm going to work very hard for every vote here. And nationwide, we've been leading with the Hispanic Latino vote over Trump across the country. I think, but I don't take anything for granted. I'm going to work very hard for every single vote.
Over the weekend, the Washington Post had an article about, and including some top Latino activists. They're saying that they simply feel as though your campaign has been a little too late towards reaching out to the Latino population.
Well, that's not how we've advertised more in Latino stations than anybody else has. We've reached out. We have major political figures in the Latino community involved with us. We have high-ranking people. My administration is going to look like the country and look like my campaign with major Latino participation. But look, you said there's 50-some days left. I'm just going to work like the devil to try to earn every single vote I can.
You're here in Florida. There is a large Latino voting population, different parts of the state, different groups. For example, here in the I-4 corridor, there is a large Puerto Rican community that many times is going to be possibly voting for the first time for president because they've come from the island over the past 3 years with Hurricane Maria. Do you have a position on Puerto Rico?
I've had a position for a long time. There should be no second-class citizens in America, period. No one should be treated like a second-class citizen. And this president has treated Puerto Rico and Puerto Rican citizens and Puerto Ricans in the United States as second-class citizens. Going after the Hurricane of Maria and throwing paper towels to people, making sure they did not get the kind of reconstructive money that they were promised and needed to. They're still in tough shape. He doesn't pay any attention. He refers to the Puerto Ricans in ways that are derogatory. I think that it's outrageous the way he has treated Puerto Rico. And I think that, like I said, there should be no second-class citizens.
What does that mean?
Well, it means is we got to make sure that they have all the health care they need, Medicare, Medicaid. Make sure we have to keep the commitment we made to rebuild the country after it was devastated by Maria, making sure that we provide for education help in Puerto Rico. The University of Puerto Rico should get the same kind of assistance that historic black colleges and minority universities get. We should be doing so much more. Look, these are American citizens. He doesn't know that, but they're American citizens. And they should be treated like American citizens.
In the past just 24 hours, President Trump, that has gone out west, has been on a campaign swing there, said that it was a matter of defending the American dream if he wins, and if you win, it would be the American pesadilla, the American nightmare, that you would be surrendering to the extreme left.
You know, I have supported my whole life basic fundamental American values: decency, honor, fairness, giving people an opportunity for them to work their way through processes, to work their way up. This president has done none of that. This president does everything but he embraces dictators. He's more like Castro than he is like Churchill. He keeps talking about. He has no affinity whatsoever with what average Americans are worried about and what they're concerned about. And he makes up the most outrageous assertions but everybody knows he lies. So this is where I'm anxious to have a debate with him and anxious to get this moving.
The debate is 2 weeks from today. As you know, the president has, when he talks about you, he says all kinds of things, doubts your mental competency, says that you're taking possibly drugs to be up. How are you preparing for that debate? How do you see that debate turning out?
Well, I'll let everybody decide after we see the debate, but I'm anxious to debate him.
How are you preparing for it?
Just to tell the truth, lay out his record. You know, he likes to be in the mosh pit. You know, he likes to talk about things that are, like he did with Secretary Clinton. You know, he wanted to talk about, can you grab women and who does what and all that stuff about Access Hollywood and all the rest. I mean, I'm just going to talk about the facts, talk about what he hasn't done, what needs to be done, and talk about what I want to do as President of the United States of America.
As a matter of fact, Bernie Sanders just on MSNBC over the weekend said that it's more than just to win. You need more than just to be anti-Trump. Paraphrasing, you have to also show what Joe Biden is for. What would you say is the main reason that you are running for president and the main reason you should be elected?
There's 3 reasons. 1, to restore the soul of this country, decency, honor, making sure that we, in fact, mean what we say when we say we the people. When those folks came out of those fields down in Charlottesville carrying those torches, their veins bulging, screaming hate and carrying Nazi flags and white supremacists, and a young woman gets killed and the president's asked to comment, he said what no president has ever said in American history. He said there are very fine people on both sides. The second reason I'm running is to make sure that we rebuild the backbone of this country, the middle class. The middle class has been getting killed. The middle class is getting crushed. This time bring everybody along, regardless of their race, their background, their color, period. Just bring everybody along. Give people an even shot to be able to make it, and make sure that everybody starts paying their fair share. I'm not going to raise taxes on anybody making less than $400,000, but guess what? Corporations are going to start to pay what they should be paying. You're making $1 billion and you're paying no taxes? How's that sit with you? I mean, how are you doing with that? Making sure that people making billions of dollars actually pay a fair share. It's about decency and honor and fairness, and it's about uniting the country. From the day he rode down that golden escalator in his hotel announcing his candidacy, he said, I'm going to go get those rapist Mexicans. The way he talks about Latinos, the way he talks about African Americans, the way he talks about Hispanics is degrading. And so that's not who we are. This is the United States of America. We are not like he preaches. His own former campaign manager and press secretary said what he looks for is division, chaos, and hate. That's what brings people together for him. That's what they're saying, to paraphrase them. And that's not who we are as America. Look, we're a nation of immigrants. We built this country because of the courage it took for people to get up on a boat or a car or cross a border and say, leave everything they know for a better opportunity. It takes optimism. It takes determination. It takes courage. And that's who we are. And he's the antithesis of that.
We have, actually, when we announced that we were going to be speaking with you, Telemundo viewers were interested in asking you questions, and
okay.
I think it'd be great if they could
I'd be happy to
address you and ask some of the first questions. And
here's
the
here?
first one. Yeah.
Okay.
Señor Biden, usted y Obama son
Mr. Biden, you and Obama are responsible for a record-breaking number of immigrants being deported. How can you guarantee us that this will not continue happening in our communities?
It took much too long to get it right. That's the fact. Period. Number 1. Number 2, but compare to where we are today and look where you are. How are you feeling today in terms of this president? Everything he's done, separating thousands, there's still thousands of people who are being separated from their families. They're deporting people. They're standing outside a church waiting to come out after Mass. There are going to be no deportations in the first 100 days of my campaign.
Let me get that right. You are going to freeze deportations?
Freeze deportations for the first 100 days. And only people will be deported are people who committed a felony while here. That's number 1. Okay, I lost that.
Yeah, well, but that's good because we could talk, you and I, on that.
Okay.
But it's
Think about where we are today.
there were more than 2.5 million deportations under the Obama-Biden administration.
I understand that.
Not a 2.5 million all criminals and.
I didn't say they were, and you've asked me this 15 times.
Yeah,
We go
I'm
through
gonna
this,
probably
and
ask you that.
You love coming back to it. I wasn't president, number one. Number two, it took too long to get it right. But they finally got it right with DACA. They finally got it right by moving in a direction to try to. We weren't persecuting people at the process. Look, I can only imagine what it's like to see someone in your family deported.
That's right.
I can only imagine what that's like. And to me, it's all about family, beginning, middle, and end. It's about family. That's not going to happen in my administration. It's simply not going to happen. We're going to abide by the law. We're going to abide by the law. We're not going to continue this relentless assault on. They're coming up across the border. They're going to invade us. These are all people are bad people. I mean, come on. It's just terrible what's happening. The idea you can't even seek asylum on American soil? Can't even seek asylum on American soil? When did that happen? Trump. It's wrong.
You're going to change that.
Yes, I am.
There's another question that I think you'd be interested in.
Okay.
Because you mentioned DACA. Let's see this question.
Señor Joe Biden, mi pregunta.
Mr. Joe Biden, my question is, would you push to legalize Dreamers?
Yes.
What would that mean, legalizing Dreamers? Because the president did it, President Obama. He actually created DACA. 750,000 people have been able to come out from the shadows. And yet now, President Trump has canceled DACA. What would you do?
I'm going to reinstate it, and then they're going to be part of what I'm going to send to the United States Congress is a total immigration bill to provide a pathway to citizenship for undocumented people in the United States of America. It makes no sense for us not to do that. And they're part of the reason why we're growing. They're part of the reason why, look, you have 24 out of every 100 kids in grades in school today are Latino, Spanish speaking. It makes no sense, none whatsoever, for us to walk away and not provide for access, not provide for education, not provide for health care. Look what's going on. And so it's part of the strength of the country. It's not a weakness, it's a strength.
As you know, Obamacare doesn't let the undocumented have access to it. You would change that.
No. What Obamacare says is if, in fact, you can afford it, you can be part of it.
The undocumented do not have access to it.
Well, if you have a job and you can pay into it, you can purchase it, you'll be able to do it. But here's what we have to do. We have to provide for emergency health assistance to anybody who's in the country. So you're able to go to get help if you have a problem. And look what's happening in terms of COVID now. You have, in the United States of America, you are 3 times as likely to get COVID if, in fact, you are Hispanic or Latino. You're twice as likely to die if you get it. And you have a significant number of Latinos or Hispanics being denied their no longer losing their insurance because they lost their jobs, their employers, and we got a president in the Supreme Court, in the court, trying to eliminate the health care plan that's available under the Affordable Care Act, which in fact would require eliminate the ability to be exempt because you have pre-existing conditions and not be able to deny insurance. We should be expanding that access.
Dr. Fauci talks about this winter could actually be even worse as far as COVID is concerned in this country. 70+% of the deaths of children by COVID in this country are minorities.
Yes.
70+%.
Exactly right.
So are you ready in the winter to shut down the country again if that's...
What I'm ready to do, we cannot open the country unless you deal with COVID. That's what this president doesn't get.
What does that mean? You can't...
Look, you cannot open it unless you're able to begin to deal with reducing the access, reducing the danger of COVID in the country. And so that requires us to do a number of things. First of all, I'm going to make sure, if I'm President of the United States, I proposed this back in March, that we have Testing available, same-day testing. So in 24 hours, you can get the results. Number one. Number two, make sure that we have a plan, a national plan to lay out how you could reopen a business or how you reopen a school. Lay out what sanitary conditions are required. Lay out in detail how to do it. Making sure we provide for the PPE that is needed for all, not just first responders, but for the people opening businesses as well. There's so many things we could do that I've laid out back as far back as March. This president has totally ignored. Look what he did. This president knew. He knew the danger. He knew how deadly this pandemic was, and he denied it. He didn't say a word to the American people about it. He kept saying it's going to go away when the heat when the weather gets warmer. It's going to all disappear. It's going to be like America. Or maybe you can inject bleach into your bloodstream and everything will be all right. It's been absolutely criminal the way in which he's allowed. And the estimates are, had he acted just 1 month earlier, back in March, there would be 37,000 more people alive than have died. So it's been near criminal the way he's handled this. It's absolutely bizarre.
Have you considered the possibility, because I'm just thinking over the weekend the president was saying that the only way Democrats can win is if they rig the election. That's an actual quote.
Well, how come every national poll shows the Democrats winning?
Well, I remind you that in 2016 a lot of polls were wrong.
Oh, I got you. I remind you that he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay.
Have you ever heard him tell the truth?
My question to you, sir, is have you considered the possibility that if he says that the only way you could win is through a rigged election and you win 3rd of November, that he may not concede?
By the way, when I said several months ago that I predicted he's going to ask to postpone the elections, all you guys, including you, said, nah, that's crazy. What did he do? What did he do? He put up a trial balloon. Maybe we should postpone the election. Now, why do you think he's talking like this? If he's so confident, he's doing so well. Why do you think he's going out there trying? Look.
Why do you think?
I think it's because he knows he's in trouble.
So what do you think he's going to do?
I don't know what I don't know what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see to it that we make sure that we have, look, people are going to come out and vote. You're not going to stop people from voting. You're going to see the largest turnout of voters in modern history as a percentage of voters. They're not going to stay quiet. And I put full faith in the ability of those people when they come out to pick the right person.
And if he doesn't concede and you win?
I don't think if you watch the major military people in his administration who have disassociated themselves with him, talked about how reckless he is. In fact, I don't think we're going to have a problem. There are not going to be a lot of people standing behind him. But what is worrisome now, the way he talks about insurrection. He's talking about people taking up arms. Have you ever heard a Democratic, not capital D, a Democratic president of the United States ever say anything like these things? Why do you think he's doing it? If he was so sure he was going to be able to win, that this was going to, why would he be talking like this?
So what do you think he's doing? Why do you think he's doing it?
I think he's trying to raise the issue that somehow there's something illegal about what's going to happen. So he claims he didn't lose. This guy's not very straight.
My final question, and I'd like for someone to ask it instead of myself, about racial justice in this country.
Sure.
This is a Telemundo viewer and wanted to ask you that.
Sure.
Señor Biden, ¿hay mucha tensión racial?
Mr. Biden, there is a lot of racial tension in the United States with the Black Lives Matter movement. How are you going to solve it?
Well, first of all, what I have done my whole career is try to unify people, bring them together. And the way to deal with this, there's institutional racism that exists for brown and black people and Asian Americans. Institutional racism. Across the board. In jobs, education, and across the board. And the American people have finally had the blinders taken off. They've realized what's happening in the middle of this COVID crisis. They've looked out, and who are the people who kept everybody alive and working? All those essential workers. Who are those essential workers? Significantly minorities, making sure that the mail gets delivered, making sure that the drugstores are open, making sure the shelves are stacked, being nurses' aides, making sure they're working for people. Everybody's now realized that. And they've also realized the degree to which there is institutional racism. Look, If I can make an analogy, when I was a kid in high school, Bull Connor and his dogs were out there singing their German Shepherds on black women going to church in their Sunday best and fire hoses ripping the skin off of little kids. And what happened was everybody sat down in places where they didn't have large black populations, and it was like they looked and said, oh my God, that really happens? And as Dr. King said, that produced a second emancipation. It produced the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. Now we have these cell phones. I don't have mine with me. That young man who stood there for 8 minutes and 42 seconds and watched George Floyd get killed with a cop with his hand in his pocket and the rest of them not knowing what to do. The whole country saw it and said, my God, this is still happening. And the way the president talks about Latinos and Hispanics, the way he talks about minorities, people are going, that's not who we are. That's not who we are. They are not going to put up with it. Things are changing. They're changing already. And look at every one of the, anyway, they're changing. And there's a significant opportunity in the process to grow the economy. I remember you and I had a discussion several years ago about, Social Security is going to go bankrupt because of immigrants from Latin America. Come on, they're the people that kept it going. It's the reason why it's thriving. It's the reason why it's growing. There's so much bad information out there. But the American people in their gut, they know. They know. Do you know many people who want their kid to grow up like the President of the United States? What do you think? You can't answer. I'm not supposed to interview you. But think about it. And so it matters a lot how you treat people. My dad used to have an expression. Everyone, and he meant it, he practiced it, everyone's entitled to be treated with dignity. You say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about your place in the community. It's about your honor. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about for me.
Mr. Vice President, let's agree, you and I, to meet again soon so we can continue this conversation with the Latino community through Telemundo.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.